After felling the foul fiend, known only as the Defiler, 'neath his nest, which rests but a stone's throw from the sleepy hamlet known as Tristram, we reach in our inventory and pull out the cathedral map, which he inexplicably dropped. Etched on the parchment is a picture of not a very accurate rendition of the town of Tristram, perhaps? The houses are littered about the river as if scrawled by someone who'd never actually spent more than an hour there, but unmistakable is the cathedral to its north. In front of the cathedral, words are scrawled, "Put me here," and point to a crucifix in the graveyard. But what? Where? And why? It's only after returning to town and asking around we see Gillian the barmaid, who tends to aid her ailing grandmother, and she says,
"My grandmother often tells me stories about the strange forces that inhabit the graveyard outside of the church, and it may well interest you to hear one of them. She said that if you were to leave the proper offering in the cemetery, enter the cathedral to pray for the dead, and then return, the offering would be altered in some strange way. I don't know if this is just the talk of an old sick woman, but anything seems possible these days."
Instead of simply scoffing at what possibly is the feverish ranting of the aged and infirmed, we're instead intrigued. Gillian herself has stated her grandmother relays visions from time to time, and her remark about offerings to the cemetery match up with this map. But what could be buried in the cemetery, as the dead tend to tell no secrets? Although, these are strange times indeed. And so we ponder, are there any other clues we can garner from the townsfolk themselves? We then head to Wirt the peg-legged boy, a young mercantile type that's probably dealt with a map or two in his short time. And he also has a clear view of the cathedral, to which he greedily poses.
A vast and mysterious treasure, you say? Maybe I could be interested in picking up a few things from you. Or better yet, don't you need some rare and expensive supplies to get you through this ordeal?
I guess it is a map, but who said anything about treasure? Intrigued, we then see Ogden, the tavern owner, who scolds.
I'll bet that Wirt saw you coming and put on an act just so he could laugh at you later when you're running around the town with your nose in the dirt. I'd ignore it.
Although that may be true, Wirt planting the idea of lost treasure in our head, this dialogue is also shared with Wirt's own cut quest, Lost Treasure, and so is being recycled by Sierra to fit their own Hellfire narrative. It's then we seek out the wisdom of Cain, the elder, who shares.
"There was a time when this town was a frequent stop for travelers from far and wide. Much has changed since then, but hidden caves and buried treasure are common fantasies of any child. Wirt seldom indulges in youthful games, so it may just be his imagination."
So Cain also seems to be a non-believer. But what does Farnham the Drunk think of our map?
Listen here. Come close. I don't know if you know what I know, but you have really got something here. That's a map.
Riveting insight as always, Farnham, old boy. We then see Griswold the blacksmith, who leers at our map momentarily, but then rebukes us for even entertaining such an idea.
A what? This is foolishness! There's no treasure buried here in Tristram! Let me see that. Look, these drawings are inaccurate. They don't match our town at all. I'd keep my mind on what lies below the cathedral, and not what lies below our topsoil.
But we are looking for what's below cathedral. Never mind. Next, Pepin the healer, ever the pragmatist, waves dismissively.
"I really don't have time to discuss some map you are looking for. I have many sick people that require my help, and yours as well."
With all other options exhausted, we travel to the outskirts of town. There, Adria the witch stands by her shack, hands on hips, and advises.
Maintain your quest. Finding a treasure that is lost is not easy. Finding a treasure that is hidden, less so. I will leave you with this. Do not let the sands of time confuse your search.
Maintain our quest and don't let the sands of time confuse our search. Perhaps she means that we shouldn't stand idle and look by the source of our quest, the cathedral itself. And who has all the time in the world but the dead in the graveyard? With the map in hand, we race to the cathedral's entrance, realizing the inaccurate map places the cemetery at its front. However, there is a graveyard adjacent. In the cemetery, we see a crypt, which we've never really paid attention to before. A winged succubus sits atop it, arms outstretched and body thick, which was the fashion at the time. With no other real leads, we look at the map once more and realize it urges us to put it physically somewhere in the cemetery, and so we lay it down on the crypt. To our shock, the lid falls back and reveals a staircase leading down into a red glow below that matches the ominous cathedral lighting behind us. Curious, yet perhaps against our better judgment, we cautiously step inside.
This is a place of great power.
Entering the crypt, we're confronted with a large stone room, lavished with ornate carvings and a hellish hue of flames bubbling underfoot, barely contained by the tile below. 2 demonic sentries sit guarding the door with a demon's crest, eyes aglow, warns against any unwanted interlopers. We immediately head north and open the door to be set upon by undead grave diggers. Shovel in hand, they amble towards us, falling into the doorway. Somehow, we think, it may not be treasure that is being guarded, but it's lucky we didn't end up selling Wirt the map, as he'd be liable to lose his other foot down here. Before we can finish the thought, skull wings appear, aberrations in servitude of whom we are yet to establish, but unholy is their presence nonetheless. When killed, the fiend explodes in a ball of hellfire, but not before we're pushed out of the room by a hail of fireballs from unseen enemies. Contending with the skull wings seems easy in comparison to their casting counterparts. The fire-flinging fiends known as Lich are excruciatingly painful to deal with as a sword-wielding warrior. Only by cornering them can we effectively fell the foes as they drip with magma and fall to the floor. But as soon as we face them, they will try and stay 3 tiles from our range, fleeing into larger groups, causing havoc, dragging us into their kin, as they are free to lick our hide with an unending deluge of destruction. In hunting down these Lich, we find something seemingly benign, a crumpled note. Although unsure of its full text, we pocket it for later. The onslaught, it seems, has just begun. Near the entrance to level 2, we're set upon by a gaggle of grave diggers who seem to just soak up attacks and not much else, but we learn that they are A, shambling yet persistent with a decent hit of the shovel, and B, if allowed to dig, will regenerate hit points. Just to the south, we see encircled in hellish pillars a journal entitled The Meeting that reads,
I have tried spells, threats, abjuration, and bargaining with this foul creature. To no avail. My methods of enslaving lesser demons seem to have no effect on this fearsome beast.
This doesn't seem promising. Some madman has enslaved demons? A practice banned by all the major mage clans, and he seems to have found one that cannot be bound, and perhaps is still loose. Close by, we then find a room unlike any other. Inside lies 2 diamond patterns and a tile with a glowing stone in its corner. Although not a quest or explicitly stated, this is known as the cornerstone of the world. If one was to voyage to the stone with one character and drop off whatever item you wish to transfer, it would then copy to another character's on the stone, and the save game with the item will still be there. The next game game you create with any single player character on any difficulty level will have the same item available to them sitting on the cornerstone when they arrive. An amazing function before any shared stash was established, but there is also lore attached when dropping said item, which reads,
"And in the year of the golden light, it was so decreed that a great cathedral be raised. The cornerstone of this holy place was to be carved from the translucent stone Anterial, named for the angel who shared his power with the Horadrim. In the year of drawing shadows, the ground shook, and the cathedral shattered and fell. As the building of catacombs and castles began, and man stood against the ravages of the Sin War, the ruins were scavenged for their stones. And so it was that the cornerstone vanished from the eyes of man. The stone was of this world, and of all worlds, as the light is both within all things and beyond all things. Light and unity are the products of this holy foundation, a unity of purpose and a unity of possession."
Now, it should be of note, although Hellfire is not considered technically canon by Blizzard, it's amazing that this lore seems to be, at least in some part, to reflect the World Stone in later games, which was, of course, pivotal, especially to Diablo 2's plot. And its ability to shape reality, this cornerstone would be the perfect catalyst to create new items, and was gifted by Tyrael, it seems, or Anterial as he was known, as were the Soul Stones to the Horadrim in later games. So it lines up incredibly well if it was a chunk of the World Stone, and for discarded lore, it is actually interesting nonetheless. After leaving the majestic cornerstone behind, we head to the ominous entrance to level 2. As we venture deeper into the crypt, we again find a second piece of the torn note, forced to face torrents of dark magic, thanks to the Lich and their new pets, the oversized tomb rats. We then happen across the second journal of the summoner, simply titled The Tirade.
"My home is slowly becoming corrupted by the vileness of this unwanted prisoner. The crypts are full of shadows that move just beyond the corners of my vision. The faint scrabble of claws dances at the edges of my hearing. They are searching, I think, for this journal."
Clearly overwhelmed, a victim of summoning demons from the burning hells, albeit at his own hand. It's on the third level of the crypt we're assaulted by the nightmarish Reapers, fleshy gargoyle-esque creatures bearing deadly scythes. It seems the Reapers were guarding one of the summoner's tomes, titled Na-Krul.
The entrapped creature's howls of fury keep me from gaining much-needed sleep. It rages against the one who sent it to the void, and it calls foul curses upon me for trapping it here. Its words fill my heart with terror, and yet I cannot block out its voice.
So, is this the name of the creature that is clawing at the recesses of the summoner's sanity? It's only after defeating another Reaper, guarding a final tome, do we learn the truth. Simply titled, The End.
My time is quickly running out. I must record the ways to weaken the demon, and then conceal that text, lest his minions find some way to use my knowledge to free their lord. I hope that whoever finds this journal will seek the knowledge.
And so we discover, to aid weakening whatever creature the summoner has wrought on the world, that the last piece of the note is needed. However, we see it is but a stone's throw from the tome itself, guarded by a singular bone demon. which we promptly send back to the burning hells.
Just what I was looking for.
After retrieving the note and descending to the fourth and final level, we combine the pieces into a single note, another diary entry from the summoner, who called forth this Na-Krul and imprisoned him as a dying effort when the demon proved too strong to dispel or defeat. The note itself imparts how to release Na-Krul while greatly weakening the beast in the process.
Whoever finds this scroll is charged with stopping the demonic creature that lies within these walls. My time is over. Even now, its hellish minions claw at the frail door behind which I hide. I have hobbled the demon with arcane magic and encased it within great walls, but I fear that will not be enough. The spells found in my 3 grimoires will provide you protected entrance to his domain, but only if cast in their proper sequence. The levers at the entryway will remove the barriers and free the demon. Touch them not. Use only these spells to gain entry, or his power may be too great for you to defeat.
So, we now know how to weaken this Na-Krul, but first, we must find its personal durance. However, it is easier said than done. Guarding the lever, we're confronted with a twisted cacophony of evil flesh things, as they're known, with single eyes amidst their fleshy abdomen and gnarled spike that attacks us, before they themselves turn into a puddle at our feet. It's then we find what must be the prison of Na-Krul himself. A pentagram seals the door, and a horned demon's head protrudes menacingly from its center. If we choose to ignore the tomes, which isn't wise, and not perform the ritual, we can pull the lever instead, but Na-Krul will rush out of his incarceration, saying,
"Out of my way, wretched human! Retribution calls for he whom you call Diablo."
Krul is a huge bipedal tentacle-adorned demon, roughly the size of Diablo and looking to be constructed of nightmarish flesh and sinew, spikes protruding from vines on its back as they strike at us that kill us where we stand. Instead, however, we decide to weaken Na-Krul, as the tomes had guided, and read the books in front of his chamber in the specific order mentioned by the summoner.
In spiritu sanctum, predictum otium.
Na-Krul rushes us once again. But now, we stand a chance.
What? Who dares disturb the great Na-Krul? Your life is forfeit, mortal.
Although he does significant damage, we look for a better footing in his chamber, but to no avail. We must stand our ground and hack at his corpulent abdomen, jamming Griswold's edge into his belly until he finally succumbs to our attacks and falls in a heap, as if whatever demonic magic held him in this realm gave out altogether with his body. On his corpse, we find a Book of Apocalypse, a magic longbow, great sword, and war staff. And so, with Na-Krul dead and the summoner's minions gone, the crypt is now clear and the town is safe from Hellfire's horrors for now.
Hi, I'm free to confront the one who banished me, little boy, Diablo. Hi, everybody, and I'm free to reward you, little mortal, with these Aerosmith tickets. You'll be getting backstage passes. You'll get to meet Steven Tyler and the whole band this Friday at the Coliseum. Thanks for getting me out of there. By the way, I'm gonna have to kill you. I'll be right back with the traffic and weather together.